This is my review of You Got Mail. The I don't even know what year it came. 1999 film starring Tom Hanks. I enjoyed it. I think the chemistry was great in this film. The two stars great in this film. I think it's interesting having like them being almost start out as almost two rivals, almost like the underdog and the overdog in some ways, other ways, but also this idea that they're very much anonymous, and I love that they're rivals but yet secretly hanging out with each other. I think that's an interesting twist of like romance, like it's very much a slow burn romance, and I think that is interesting. I love that they don't rush over their romance. You never really truly see them go on dates and stuff. But that's the kind of interesting thing. They don't dive onto the romance itself. They dive into the getting to that phase, getting to that point of loving each other or starting to love each other and starting to care for each other. And I think that's fascinating because it's not your typical romance film where all of a sudden they just halfway, because usually you're like, okay, halfway through the film they love each other, and I was expecting that halfway through the film they were going to figure out who they were, but it didn't take to the very end. And I think that kind of anticipation was building up, and I'm so excited for them to meet each other. And like Tom Hanks figures out right at the middle of the film, who the secret lover was, but the other character, Catherine, I think it was, or something, didn't figure out to the end. So I think that kind of anticipation bubbling, and so I think it was very satisfying when ultimately they figured out that they were together. And again, great performances. I really do like that kind of almost, again, like I said, slow burn romance, but again having that twist, because I think what I love about these different films that I've been watching recently are genre films, or not genre films, but films in different particular genres but put a twist on it. I was just talking about that with Slumdog Millionaire, going through Jamal's life, but then putting that the idea that he learns stuff that he can be used on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, that kind of twist. And here it's kind of that romance, but the twist of that, it's very much online and very much diving into the world of the internet. And I think it does ask questions about the internet, but it's not about the idea that they're on email. It's this idea of that online they're supporting each other, but see, it's like it's almost like an alter ego type thing where they're themselves no matter what. It's just that they don't see it that way, and I think that's interesting to kind of have our main characters almost live two separate lives, particularly Tom Hanks's character, because because on one hand, and this is really after he figures out that the other girl was the secret lover, whatever. But once that kind of middle point happens, the film very much shifts, where you really see it from his point of view, where it's like you see his struggle to almost again put that kind of alter ego type thing where he doesn't want to reveal it. He wants to still be nice but still have that same quote unquote um not rivalry, but banter, and less of what he was like the email. And I think seeing again also from Catherine's point of view, mainly about how she doesn't buy it, how she doesn't believe that he can be the secret lover, because it just that comparison that they just seem so different. But again, I love I love their relationship together. I think it was great that it was like they never rushed it or jumped the shark. It was very much took the whole film to develop their relationship. That's why the payoff of them ultimately going out on a date, that payoff felt so worth it, because you never rushed their relationship. You really glanced upon every single detail that of their kind of rocky relationship. But they just start out as customer to employee to consumer, and I think it was also interesting. I think it was also kind of sad that and I think that element of them both being bookstores, and again that idea of underdog versus overdog, well, it's very much undertones, but more or less the underdog part of it is that this little bookstore, how is that going to survive compared to this Omega bookstore? And I think that idea that in some capacity that they are almost, in some ways rivals of some sorts. But I always felt like that bookstore, and rightfully so, the bookstore idea was a great plot device to kind of pit them together, but also pit them against each other to make that kind of interesting relationship. Where on the one hand, secretly, little do they know, they're trying to start a relationship online together, but in the real world, not bitter enemies, but they're not having the best relationship. And they make light of that, where it's like Catherine literally has a line saying, the person online or whatever, the person I've been emailing with, is nothing like you. He's kind, he's nice, and I think that idea is that, it really does shine a light that it almost seems like two different people that they're almost living, especially, talking about Tom Hanks' character, very much two different separate lives. But, so I really enjoyed this film. I think it was interesting, and again, it takes what would seem to be a typical romance, but kind of flips on its head with the idea that they've been, romantically entwined or whatever. They've been kind of in that kind of romantic sphere since, minute one of the film, but in real life or in person, it takes through the end of the film. Not only to them both realize who the secret lover is, but also to accept that, to come around to that, and to actually be friends, and to transform that to even get that chance to go on a date. Because at the beginning, again, because I don't think it takes to the very end for them to really get their romantic in-person relationship to start, where you don't see them go on dates, you don't see them have a great life together. But that's kind of the point, where most romances kind of show the part of them building their life and going on dates. But what I love about this part is it's not that. It's almost the opposite. It's getting to that point of starting to date. Because I think that's a part that I feel like gets overlooked, and having that extra twist of them not knowing, who they're having an affair with, and it turns out to be someone who they're not on the, best terms with. I think that adds that interesting twist. So again, I was entertained. I think, I'm not always the best, target audience for a romantic film, but I think, again, having that kind of twist on that simple premise of, two people falling in love makes it wildly entertaining, or at least more entertaining than it would have been if it was just any other romantic film, on top of two great leads with two great performances and a great film that is also, not to mention, sometimes funny at times. And honestly, I have to say, I felt some emotion when they closed down the store and they showed the flashback, because at the beginning you're just like, you see all those versions of a shop around the corner all the time, just in real life. It's almost like, for me, it almost seems like a metaphor for all these different shops that are you just sense when you walk past it, especially being on New York City, that store looks cute, I'm sure it's gonna run out of business. And kind of seeing that was kind of, and they didn't have the happiest ending as far as their shop, and I like that they went there and they took that bold risk of closing down the shop, which we were first introduced to in that beginning of the film. But anyways, I really enjoyed this film, and stay tuned for more videos coming at you.